Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Michael Rikon, an attorney whose reputation for being prepared is the key to his success. Michael, such a pleasure for me to say hello to you today and to speak to a colleague in the law. So I ask you, when did you first decide you wanted to work in the law?
Well, it really goes back such a long, long way. My grandmother, my bubby, used to tell me, he's so smart, he's going to be a criminal lawyer. So, so I was always interested in the law. And when I went to college, I was studying accounting, but I worked part time in a CPA firm. And there was an attorney there, and I helped and worked with him a lot. And I really enjoyed the prospect of being able to help people and argue people's rights. So I always knew I was going to be an attorney.
So did I actually, and it has my story has to do with my grandmother also. I was 8 years old, and I told her that I was going to be a lawyer, and I love the fact that she encouraged me. So it seems as if you had that same kind of family support also.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit of how you got your actual start in the field of law and then how you worked your way up to partner? Because I know there are a lot of men and women that want to know that secret.
Well, it was a very difficult time. I graduated Brooklyn Law School,
Mhm.
and I was in 1969. I was in the class of 69, and the Vietnam War was raging at that time. So we were deferred until July to take the bar exam, but we were told that we would lose that and go 1A.
Ah.
So I joined an Army Reserve unit, and later went in for active duty, and I was in the reserves for 6 years. But it was very difficult when I graduated to get a position. I had a lot of very excited employers, prospective employers. Some even showed me my office where I would sit. And then they would ask me when going over the resume if I went to active training yet. And I say, no, not yet. They said, oh, well, call us when you come back. So there was an opportunity. The city of New York had a civil service exam, attorney trainee. I took it and I got, received very, very good marks. I was like number 3 in the list.
Mm.
And I remember speaking to Professor Leo Glasser, who later became a district court judge. And he said, only work for the city if it's in the corporation counsel's office. At that time, the city was doing so much condemnation work that they had a separate division. So I went in and I got the position and I loved it. And I stayed there for 3 years until I tried a case in the Court of Claims against the state of New York.
Mm.
And the head of the claims division of the Attorney General's office called me and said, I have a friend who was just appointed as a judge, and I recommended you as his law clerk. So I interviewed, and I got the position as law clerk to the Honorable Albert A. Blinder, and he was fantastic. He was brilliant. He was the best person, and I stayed 7 years
Wow.
with him. And even after that, we remained very close friends. And unfortunately, he passed away this last year. But he was a very dear friend and a great role model for me.
Every part of your story really exhibits, in my opinion, when preparation meets opportunity, All you need to do is be standing there ready to go. Because at every turn, if you had not been prepared to take that on that role or take that next step would not have come to you.
It's true. And when I think of preparation, I think of course examination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, eminent domain trials, condemnation trials, are non-jury trials, and they're based on really the appraisal reports and cross-examining appraisers. So I spend days and weeks poring over reports and other information. So my cross-examination is complete and very thorough.
Let's just talk about that for a minute because I understand you spent a great deal of time working in the eminent domain legal area. So let's talk to the viewers about something maybe the general public doesn't know about that area of law.
Sure. Eminent domain in New York, some lawyers call it condemnation, but eminent domain is the power of government and utilities and some other agencies to take your property without your consent.
Mm-hmm.
It's an inherent power inherent in the sovereign. Now, the United States Constitution, by the Fifth Amendment, provides that no property shall be taken except for public purpose and with payment of just compensation. And that's the key phrase, just compensation. So it becomes a matter of the court determining the value of that property. And it doesn't have to be solely a direct taking by government. They formally file a petition to condemn, but there's also a type of eminent domain that's known as inverse condemnation,
Okay.
where government puts restrictions on property that essentially make it valueless. So it's an involved area, and it's actually the only work that my firm does. And there, different situations that I get involved with. I represent the town of East Hampton. It's right now, it's the only condemning authority I represent. And I was like shamed into doing it 20 years ago because I have a house in Amagansett.
You and
And
I are
but
neighbors. I'm in Waynescott, so you and I are neighbors.
okay, so and I enjoy very much representing East Hampton. It's a very, very good body of for government. They're really incredible, and they're involved in a controversy with the use of a beach. And there's a beach there. They call it Truck Beach. It's been in the local papers a lot, but for maybe 100 years, the public has used this beach. And finally, in 2009, some of the residents and homeowner communities sued, claiming that they have title. And we had a trial, and they lost. But recently, it was reversed by the appellate division. So once again, we're on the journey to try to get the Court of Appeals to hear it. And I think they will, because beach access cases are sexy. It's the type of things that the Court of Appeals might be interested in hearing and determining.
So it's interesting, Michael. You have had such a variety of experience within the area of eminent domain. Are there issues within that field of law that really interest you in particular?
Well, there's a couple of things that go back in history. In 1973, 74, and 75, I was a consultant to the New York State Commission on Eminent Domain, and I helped draft the law. But that was a tough thing. It took them years to get it finally passed in 1977. But there are a lot of things that were sort of left unanswered that require amendment and revision. One of the things that annoys me most is a practice that the state of New York has. And the state of New York follows federal rules and obtains two appraisals for property. And the law requires that the pre-vesting offer must be in the amount of 100% of the highest approved appraisal. But if you reject it, which you can, and elect to take it as an advance payment after the property is condemned, they then switch to the lower appraisal and file that in court. And it's a horrible situation which can really ruin some people.
Normally, you hear that the appellate courts are woe to go in and substitute their judgment for the trial court judge because the trial court judge has obviously seen all of the evidence throughout the trial. So most appellate courts look for what they should, a compelling reason to make a change to what the trial court has determined.
That in Brooklyn.
You and I have Brooklyn in common. I started off as a prosecutor in Brooklyn, and so I have been a part of your world, but in the criminal side. So we started off by talking, Michael, about your booby and her encouragement. So I'm curious, what role, if any, has your family played in your success?
Well, my wife helped me a great deal. And really, when I went into private practice, there weren't too many fees coming in at that point. And she was able to support, a household. And then later on, and one of the things I'm most proud about with family is my son, Joshua. I encouraged him while he was in college by bringing him to the best trials, only the good trials, only the good judges. And I'd have him watch, he'd sit down. And when he graduated, he went to law school. And I promised him before finals, I would take off a week or two and study with him for his finals. And he's now a partner in the firm.
So, Michael, I've been reading about some of your awards and successes. Tell me which ones mean the most to you.
Well, the marquee, I think, Who's Who in American Law.
Yes, sir.
Is significant to me and means a lot. I was in it, I guess, about 20 years ago. I first was designated Who's Who in American Law. And, I took this certificate and I put it on the wall, and I was very proud of that. And in the 2020 Who's Who in American Law, I am a best lawyer. I am a super lawyer. I am a distinguished attorney. I am a top attorney. There's so many designations that my office is full of plaques and awards. I recently was made the Attorney of the Decade by the International Organization of Top Professionals.
Fantastic.
And I had the Marquee Lifetime Award. So many.
So many awards, but that's because there were so many successes over the years. Michael, what's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
Well, when it comes to government, I think it's important for people to realize that you can fight and win City Hall. I've made a very good living doing that. Don't accept what is offered to you. without consulting an attorney knowledgeable in the area. Um, Never let anyone push you around. Uh, have counsel. Uh, those are things that I think are the most important.
Absolutely. And I just thank you for your time today of exposing us to an area of the law a lot of us don't know about, but absolutely changes people's life and livelihoods. Um, the area of eminent domain is very specialized, and I have been privileged to talk to one of the top attorneys in that area. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.